What's going on YouTube? It's Teej back again with another video, and today I'm giving you both my predictions but also picks against the spread for week 1 of the NFL season. We have finally made it to the regular season. I'm fired up. Hopefully you are, and hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you do, hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want more football content in your life, hit that subscribe button and comment your predictions and your picks down in the comment section. Love to have your thoughts. I respond to every comment. So let's talk about week 1 down below. So jumping into this, what I mean by predictions, I'm going to go through and pick all these games, just an outright winner. And then on the second column, using NFL Pick Watch, I will go through and make another pick for the spread being in the mix. So you both get my predictions, who I think is going to win the game, but also if you're into betting, you can also get my insight on who I would take in that context. So hopefully there's something there for everybody who's interested in the NFL. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Thursday night, the season opener, I'm taking the Bucs. No Zach Martin. I just think right now, Tampa Bay, best roster on paper, pretty much without a doubt. I mean, it's as complete a team as it gets. Tom Brady's playing excellent football, and he's playing not on a torn MCL. You figure that counts for something. I think Dallas, especially if they had Zach Martin, maybe there'd be, a puncher's chance. They have a lot of explosive players on the offensive side, but I worry about the defense. I think it's going to take some time for Dan Quinn to have that team looking right on that side of the ball, and Tampa Bay's returning all their starters, all their coaching staffs, or at least the big ones, right? The coordinators, and Bruce Arians is back. They're buying in, trying to go back-to-back, and I think the Bucs get off on the right foot week 1. Next game, Philadelphia at Atlanta. Give me the Falcons at home. Not really crazy about either one of these teams, but given the high upside that I know the Falcons offense can play at, I don't know if Philadelphia is going to be able to go, play for play. Hurts can go throw for throw with Matt Ryan to keep up. I do like the Eagles' defense in this contest in the sense that like Fletcher Cox is going to create some pressure, and the Falcons' offensive line is starting to become a bit of a concern. It's not necessarily bad, but it's just not as good as it was when this team was, in the Super Bowl conversation. Though they're taking steps back there, and defensive line's a strength of Philadelphia, but overall, I definitely like the Falcons in this one. This hurts me to say, but I'm taking the Bills over my Steelers week 1. Bills, outside the Chiefs, might be the best team in the AFC. They can air it out. I think they can really exploit some weaknesses in the Pittsburgh secondary. Minkah Fitzpatrick's great. Joe Hayden still plays good football, but what about that number 2 corner spot? As much as I like Cam Sutton, him, James Pierre, those are naturally question marks because they're stepping into larger roles than they had in years past. Plus, Terrell Edmonds is definitely more of a box safety, not necessarily somebody who's great in coverage. And I think this Bills team might be better than they were last year. I think their defense will be improved. Sean McDermott, keep in mind, from a defensive background, I think he'll have that team looking better on that side of the ball. Plus, they're playing at home. It's obviously a tough place to play. Vikings-Bengals, I think this could be a really ugly game, as terrible as that is to say. But I'll take the Vikings. I think their offense can make enough big plays. Justin Jefferson, I think, is a really good streaming option for DFS against a secondary that, Jesse Bates is really good, but outside of that, Trey Wayne's coming off an injury. Is he the same guy? Not entirely sure. Jacoby Awuzie, he's solid. And then Mike Hilton can do a lot of good things from the slot, but talking about Jefferson on the outside, I like whoever's lined up against him. I like Jefferson in that matchup. Same thing for Thielen. And the pass rush isn't necessarily great for Cincinnati, and it's not necessarily in a position to exploit the weakness that is the Minnesota offensive line, especially no Darisaw, no Wyatt Davis, guys I thought had a chance to start as rookies, but they are not per the Vikings depth chart, but I'll still take Minnesota. They're just a better team on paper. Next up, again, better team on paper. Give me the 49ers against the Lions. I won't stay on this one too long. We'll actually talk about it a little bit more when we get to the spread. Cardinals-Titans. Cardinals last year got out to a hot start, so I'm almost inclined to see and trust that it happens again, and maybe they get an upset pick here, right? Because there's going to be weeks where the Cardinals look like a top 10 team. Like, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. 2 or 3 weeks, they're going to look insane, and we're going to be like, okay, the elite talent of this roster, their stars, Kyler, DeAndre Hopkins, J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, it's gonna look like this team is really, really good. But then there's also gonna be weeks where the star power is just not enough. I don't think they're all that well coached under Cliff Kingsbury, and that's gonna lead to a lot of weeks where they look like a bottom 5 to 10 team. So this team is super inconsistent, and it's kind of interesting when you look at this matchup because it's all about the dudes, right? For Arizona, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins. You could throw Rondale Moore in there if you want, an improved offensive line by adding Rodney Hudson, and then for Tennessee, it's Tannehill, Henry, Julio, A.J. Brown. Like, it's all about the dude. So this is a star-studded Week 1 matchup, but I'll take the Titans at home. Plus, I think they're just a better team overall. Next game, Seahawks and Colts. It's kind of interesting to watch how much the spread has changed this game. It does sound like Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson are going to be playing Week 1, which is good for the Colts. Indy's playing at home too, but I think Seattle's better. And I am pretty open about being not sold on Carson Wentz. I'm just not thinking it's going to be there this year. If anything, he's not going to be 2017 Wentz. He'll be closer to 2018, maybe 2019. But all that to say, I don't even think that's enough to outduel Russell Wilson. And Wilson tends to play better at the beginning of the year. I know last year was a huge disparity between the beginning of the year and the end of the year, but Russell Wilson's going to come out firing. And I'm excited to see that Shane Waldron offense, though. Don't get out the Colts. Obviously, Frank Reich, great coach, great offensive play caller, and a lot of talent in that defense. And maybe there's enough in the wide receiver room to exploit how weak Seattle's secondary, specifically the cornerback unit, is. Not saying it's impossible. And maybe they get enough pass rush, right? Maybe Quiddy goes berserk in this game and they win one at home, but I'll take Seattle. This is maybe the toughest game to call right here because I love so much what the Chargers have done this offseason, right? They fixed up the offensive line. In a perfect world, when Mike Williams is healthy, you have him. Obviously, Keenan Allen, your third-round pick, Josh Palmer, Jalen Guyton, who had some good games last year. Jared Cook is, fine at the tight end spot. That offense has the ability to be so explosive. And then you bring in Brandon Staley, who's this new age defensive mind. Draft Asante Samuel Jr., have Mike Davis, you have Chris Harris Jr., Joey Bosa, you have Linval Joseph back after opting out. Second year of Kenneth Murray. There's so much there to be like, wow, man, the Chargers have a real shot to be a sneaky good team this year. But cross-country trip, I know it's week 1, so you have plenty of time to prep. I'm taking Washington, and for a couple reasons. I think Los Angeles is going to be a team that kind of historically they've always been this way. They get better as the year progresses and plays on, which is really weird for a West Coast team. As we get in the winter months, they play better football. It's kind of backwards. But I think with a new defensive-minded head coach, it's going to take some time for everybody to figure out their role and their piece in the defense and how it all gels together. And there's so many new faces across the offensive line. I think it just naturally will take some time to build up that chemistry and improve that unit as a whole. And then you're going against the best defense in football, best pass rush in football. Overall, I just think that's a great matchup. If this exact matchup happened, week 10, I'd probably flip it the other way for the Chargers. But week 1, give me the Washington football team. One of my favorite bets to make here. I've put a fair amount of money on it already. Jets plus 210 against Carolina. The spread has moved to like 5.5, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I think the Jets are a better football team, right? Both these teams are predicated, and their success will come from their offense, right? It's Zach Wilson hitting the ground running as a rookie, and him taking advantage of Corey Davis, Jamison Crowder, Elijah Moore when he's back in the lineup, maybe Denzel Mims if he can play better. The offensive line looks really good. I think they're doing a good job building that unit. They have a really nice committee of running backs. Nobody who's a stud, but just a bunch of guys who fit what that offense wants to look like. And then for Carolina, right, if Sam Darnold takes that step forward, then you're talking about a guy who's got some talent, has shown some promise. I mean, he was drafted in the top 5 for a reason, right? Maybe he hits those strides with Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. Terrence Marshall Jr. looks like a beast in the making. All that to say, the offenses are both going to be really good in this game. It comes down to the defenses, and I think there's a little bit more talent for Carolina's defense, right? Like Jeremy Chin looks ahead of schedule. Derek Brown, big fan of him. I think he gets even better in year 2. Brian Burns is one of my favorite players to bet for Defensive Player of the Year, and you add Hassan Reddick. But, other side of the coin, I'm a big believer in Quinnen Williams taking a step forward. Losing Carl Lawson definitely hurts, but CJ Mosley, I think he will be a big bolster to what Robert Saleh wants to do on the defensive side. And I'm not necessarily in love with the cornerback group, but Marcus May, obviously a standout safety. Wish they had Ashton Davis in this game, but also just Robert Saleh himself, right? Like, he's such a good defensive coach. I think he plays a factor into this one. I just think the Jets are a better team, and I'll take them on the road here against Carolina. Maybe the toughest game to bet in the sense that like neither one of these teams have really impressed, right? But I'll say Urban Meyer gets the win in his first game. But I would not be surprised if Houston pulls a page, ironically, out of Jacksonville's playbook. They win this game week 1 and then lose 15, 16 straight this year. My apologies. I could see it happening, honestly. I really wouldn't rule it out. But Urban's done nothing but win. Trevor Lawrence looked really good against the Cowboys backups. I know it's their backups, and Cowboys defense is already suspect enough, but Lawrence started to look like Lawrence in that last preseason game, so give me the Jags there. Chiefs-Browns, man, heavyweight fight, I should say. Week 1. I'll go with Kansas City, partially because they're at home. If this game's in Cleveland, I might change my mind a little bit. But I think this is going to be a situation of who dictates the game script after the first quarter, right? Say the Browns are up 17-7 or something like that in the first quarter. That's kind of a high-scoring first quarter. But, these two teams have some explosiveness to them. But let's just say the Browns are leading after the first quarter, and they can get into that, let's run the football, milk the clock. Our defense is solid enough to keep us in a lead. That plays obviously to the hands of the Browns, but if it's Kansas City jumping out to a 14-0 lead, while I do believe in Baker Mayfield, he has proven to be a good enough quarterback, and I like OBJ this year. I think he's due for a bounce back and to prove that he can fit in that offense. Jarvis Landry's solid, lots of tight ends. Kareem Hunt, good receiving option out of the backfield. I just think if the Chiefs get up 14-0, that's just too big of a mountain to overcome. Kansas City at home, I'll take the reigning AFC champs. Bama Bowl, here Tua versus Mac Jones. I'm going to go with the Pats here. It feels like all the momentum in the world is mounting up in the favor of the Patriots, right? Like Mac Jones looks fantastic in the preseason. Spirits are high behind him. Bill Belichick's got all his players back from opting out last year. They spent a ton of money bringing in players who just feel like they fit what this team wants to do. Meanwhile, for Miami, while Tua did have a good preseason, the narrative is still like mixed on if Tua can be a long-term option. There's rumors of them being in on Deshaun Watson. What does that do for the locker room? Also, a couple players going on the COVID reserve list. You're not going to have Austin Jackson, who looked very bad this preseason, simply put, but he's still a starting offensive lineman, and losing him when he's the guy potentially going against Matthew Judon, Chase Winovich, Josh Uche, whoever it ends up being rushing from that side for New England, that's a loss, because not only is the Dolphins' offensive line not that good, it's not very deep either. So really worried about that side of it. And this is big brother versus little brother. I'll take big brother at home. Packers Saints. Packers are just a better football team, but this game is interesting because Jameis Winston looked so good in that last preseason game, and it was in 23 dropbacks, but he's one of those guys, and I said this in my power rankings video, where he either gives you, he'll give you 20 plays in a row where he's playing nothing but 10s. Like, it's the best possible outcomes, and he looks amazing. And the next 20 plays are all like one caliber. They're just terrible. You don't know what he's thinking. But maybe the LASIK, right? I'm legally blind, literally without contacts. Maybe the LASIK surgery is there. I'm the person who would buy into that if it's going to be anybody. And the Sean Payton offense, maybe it's enough. They're playing at home. That kind of makes me intrigued by this one. But the last dance, I do think this will be the last year of Aaron Rodgers, though, even though I'm starting to soften on that belief as well. Davante Adams, free agent after this year. I just think this team's going to buy into one more run. Again, the last dance, and it starts week 1 with a win on the road. This is such a tough game to pick a winner for. If Golladay is like 100% healthy, I'd probably lean Giants, but I'm going to say Teddy Two Gloves plays a safe, conservative game. And despite the Giants having a good run defense, I think, whether it's Melvin Gordon or Javonte Williams, a couple opportunities to steal some touchdowns on the goal line. And overall, I think the pass rush that Denver has against what is a pretty poor offensive line for the Giants will be able to exploit and create bad plays out of Daniel Jones at a higher rate, more consistent than the Giants, who don't necessarily have great edge rush, but they have good front 3 players in that 3-4 set. They can do a lot of good things. But I like the Broncos' offensive line a little bit more. And plus, just when it comes down to erratic play and avoiding turnovers, Teddy Bridgewater is probably a little bit better of an option compared to Daniel Jones, at least given their careers so far. So, despite cross-country trip, I'll take Denver here on the road. Bears, Rams, especially if it's Andy Dalton, right? Like, at least if you said it was Justin Fields, right? His legs can hide what that offensive line is going to look like, especially the tackle spot. And he can just do some crazy things to keep this team in the game. But I think this Rams team comes out swinging. Week 3, they play the Bucks. I'll say it now. I think I had it in my season predictions video. I would not be surprised if this team's 3-4-0. And then the talk of the NFL, right? Like the McVay offense looks great. Stafford looks like he's fitting in seamlessly. I could see this team a quarter of the way through the year having McVay as the front runner for coach of the year, maybe Stafford's in the MVP conversation, and they just steal the narrative early on. I don't know if it'll last, but I could see this team having that type of hype early on. I think it starts against the Bears. Rams, last game to pick, Ravens and Raiders. Raiders are at home, and keep in mind they beat New Orleans last year. It was the first game ever played in the Death Star, so there was a little bit more to it than what's happening this year. This year's just, you know, the home opener, year 2 in the Death Star. But no Rashad Bateman. I really wanted to contemplate and push myself to take the Raiders here, but the Ravens are better. It's just that simple. And especially, even if there's no J.K. Dobbins, the Ravens are going to run the football at a high rate. And I know Denzel Perryman now playing for the Raiders, and they've invested a lot in the defense, but a lot of that's to boost up the pass rush. I still think this team is pretty bad against the run, so I could see the Ravens running away with this one, and maybe the Raiders mount something late. Additionally, Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, those guys just know how to create turnovers. So it's one of those things where I think the Ravens offense will be efficient, they'll move the ball up and down the field, they'll create a couple turnovers, and that will ultimately be the difference. Now I'll go ahead and give you my picks against the spread. Starting with Thursday night's game, I'm still going to take the Bucs. -8 is a crazy number. Like, I totally get it, but I'll take the Bucs 31-21. I don't believe in the Cowboys, especially minus Zach Martin. I just worry about what that offensive line might look like against, you know, Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh, JPP, Shaq Barrett. You can blitz Devin White. You know, I think this team can create a lot of pressure against now a not 100% Cowboys offensive line. Additionally, this team is back at 100% in so many ways, more than one. So they're at home. They're the reigning Super Bowl champs. Yeah, I'm buying into all of it. Despite a huge spread number, I'll take the Bucs at home. Eagles, Falcons. I'll still take the Falcons here, 3.5. Maybe it's, you know, a 4-point game. So this one's pretty close. Really wouldn't advise you betting on this one because these two teams have different strengths, and it could ultimately even out and become a really close football game. But if I have to pick, I'll go with Atlanta. I'm going to go Pittsburgh against the spread. So I picked the Bills to win this game, but I think the Buffalo wins by a field goal, maybe 4 points, 28-24, something along those lines. Pittsburgh is starting to get people to win over their opinion, and people are starting to see what this team really will look like this year. Matt Canada's offense is hiding what probably will not be a stellar offensive line. Dan Moore looks like he's going to be starting at left tackle as a rookie. You're moving Chukwuma Okorafor back to right tackle because Banner's hurt. All that, you know, not a whole lot of confidence in the tackle positions, but there's so much movement, more play action in the offense under Matt Canada. So I think all that's enough to hide that weakness. But like I said when I picked this game, the secondary could get exploited. And then also now you're coming into question, is TJ Watt going to play in this game? I think he does. I think Pittsburgh's going to put aside what's been their rule of not guaranteeing money outside of the signing bonus. With a player like TJ Watt, who you make an argument is a top 5 player in the NFL, especially if you're not accounting for position levity and importance, but edge rusher outside of quarterback, to me, the second most important position on the field. TJ Watt's that dude, and they have got to keep him in town. So I think a contract gets worked out. Even if it doesn't, I think TJ Watt plays in this game, but that's now up in the air, and that plays a factor. But still like Pittsburgh against the spread, given pretty much almost a touchdown. Vikings and Bengals. I think this game's, like I said, pretty ugly. Honestly, this is probably a push. 30-27, 31-28, something like that. But I'll take Minnesota if I'm going to put anything on this spread. This one's tricky because I really want to go with the Lions here, and I think I will. Just at home, I think this is one of those games where, you know, 2 garbage time touchdowns from Detroit puts them back within 6. But the game is over, right? Like, you turn on the fourth quarter, and it's like, yeah, San Francisco's got this one. But then Detroit, you know, Jared Goff, weird plays happen, and Detroit just, you know, works their way back into it. You know, Dan Campbell's got them biting kneecaps, working their way back into it to cover the spread. I know I took -8 here, and 7, again, is a large number, so I'm not entirely sure it'll happen twice, but I'll take the Lions here. Plus, they're at home, you know, that accounts for something. So I'll take the Lions, even though definitely the 49ers are a better team, and they probably should cover by more than a touchdown. Titans, Cardinals, yeah, I'll take the Titans here. I think they win by at least a field goal. I have the Titans win the game anyways. 2.5 here. I'll take Seattle. I think they win by at least a field goal. But this game could get close, and it could be a 1 to 2 point game. But basically here you're picking the winner, so I'm going to stick with my pick to win this game. I'm going to go with Seattle just like I did with Tennessee. Same thing here, 1 point differential. You're going to basically pick the winner. 5.5, definitely taking the Jets here, right? Like, I have the Jets winning this game, so I have some money line bets on them. But plus 5.5, you're going to give me almost a touchdown. Yeah, give me the Jets there. I'll throw a bone here to Houston. I think the Jags win the game, but maybe it's something that's super ugly. Again, I'd push 24-21. I think this game is 3 points is a pretty good spread coming from NFL Bet Pick Watch or Vegas overall. But, you know, maybe we'll say Houston covers week 1. Got a lot of fans in the stands and trying to garner as much hope early as possible. +6, I'll take Cleveland. I think this is another one-score game pretty handily. It was a close playoff game, so I don't see why it wouldn't continue to be. I know Mahomes got hurt in the divisional game, but that game was close even up till Mahomes got hurt. And really the difference was, you know, Andy Reid with, you know, nuts of steel going for it and converting on 4th and 1 with Chad Henne under center. I mean, that level of guts has got to count for something, and it kind of overcomes the fact that it's Chad Henne under center for a 4th down play. Basically picking the winner here, -3. I'll go ahead and take the Patriots. Feels like these two teams, momentum and narratively speaking, kind of heading in other directions. I think the Pats are really flying up people, and they're garnering a lot more positive buzz than I would say is going in a negative direction for Miami. But I will say, I think people are starting to sour on the Dolphins and get really buzzing on the Patriots. 4 points, yeah, I'd still like Green Bay here, but this is a close one because I could easily see this becoming a field goal game. So playing at home, maybe you go New Orleans here, and this is probably one I could, you know, flip a coin and let that be the deciding factor. That one's pretty tough, but I picked the Packers to win, and I'm starting to pick up my optimism for what the Saints could look like, but I'm still rather low on them just because I want to see Jameis Winston do it for more than just 23 dropbacks. I need to see it more than that. Is it going to be consistent 8 to 10 caliber plays if you're putting on a scale of 1 to 10, or, you know, the first 23 dropbacks of this game going to be all ones on that scale, right? I need to see a little bit larger of a sample set before I buy in. So give me Green Bay. And then Giants, Broncos. Yeah, I picked the Broncos to win on the road. Probably not one I'd advise you to put money on. That's a really good line. So I'll take the Broncos just because I had them winning. 7.5 here. Man, I could see a situation where, what if the first half from Andy Dalton's really ugly and Justin Fields gets thrown out there and he mounts this rally, right? Say it's 21-3 at half. And then Fields comes out, there's a spark, there's a new energy within that Bears team, and they end up losing by 6, but things start to feel a lot better for Chicago. I don't know, 7.5 is a tough mark. And just like I said for this Bills game and for this Lions game, that's a big number. I know I like it with Tampa, and you could argue these two teams are closer than any of the other matchups, right? Like the difference between the 49ers and the Lions is definitely greater than that of the Cowboys and Bucs, but the Bucs are at home, so, you know, that's kind of a cheat. I know they're playing this game at SoFi, but I think this game is decided by a touchdown ultimately, just because the Bears kind of played their way back into it. Same thing I talked about with the Lions, but that's definitely a gut feeling more than it is, you know, relying on numbers and doing all that. But it's week 1. We don't know what these teams' record against the spreads are, so we're kind of figuring this out as we go along. I'm going to take the Raiders here against the spread. What if this is a sneaky 3-point game, 2-point game, whatever the case may be? I really kind of want to pick the Raiders in this game just because the Ravens are so banged up, but they are such a well-coached team, and they just can run the football so well. They create turnovers, but the Raiders are notorious for hot starts under John Gruden, and Derek Carr always plays really well in the first half of the season, then starts to peter out towards the back half of the schedule. I would not be surprised for this upset play, just like when the Raiders knocked off the Saints last year. I had money on that game, and that was an upset pick that, you know, I was very happy with. It could happen again this year, and, you know, +4, I'll go ahead and take the Raiders. But that's going to do it for my Week 1 predictions and picks against the spread. Tell me what you think about your Week 1 picks, and tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where you think I'm right, and we're both going to try to show our smarts off this weekend. Love to have your thoughts. I respond to every comment. So let's talk about Week 1 down below. Hopefully you all have enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button. It would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want more football content like this, please consider subscribing. That's going to do it for today's video. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.